Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. We're running just a little bit behind, but we're going to try to make up some time. We are meeting today for the purpose of Capital Budget Subcommittee hearings on a number of agencies. So we'll just cut right to it. We're going to start first with the libraries, the Maryland State Library Agency, starting with Ms. Andrade, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I am Natalie Andrade, here with the Department of Legislative Services to present the fiscal 27 capital allowance for the Maryland State Library Agency. On page 1 of the analysis, you can see that the fiscal 27 capital request provides $12.8 million in general obligation bonds for the Public Library Capital Grant Program. This exceeds the statutory $7.5 million annual allocation by $5.3 million. The request represents the third time in 4 years that funding has exceeded the mandated level. Turning to page 2, there is a discussion of the fiscal 27 allowance, which supports 8 projects across 8 jurisdictions. These include new construction in Charles, Frederick, Montgomery, and Washington counties, major renovations and extensions in Cecil and Wycomico counties, the conversion of a former middle school into a library in Queen Anne's County, and flood remediation work in Dorchester County. Several projects incorporate ADA compliance upgrades, HVAC replacement, energy efficiency improvement, and expanded youth and community programming space. The fiscal 27 allowance also includes the authorization of $586,000 in unexpended general obligation bond funds for the State Library Resource Center project at the Enoch Pratt Free Library. The project was originally authorized at $4.8 million in fiscal 2019, and actual expenditures total approximately $4.2 million. The proposed authorization reflects funds remaining after substantial completion of the renovation. Exhibit 1 on pages 4 through 7 details the project list. The total estimated cost of the 8 projects is approximately $108.2 million, with $5.5 million in prior authorizations, $12.8 million requested in fiscal 27, and $18.1 million in anticipated future requests. Several of the larger projects exceed $10 million in total cost, and 3 exceed $20 million. In particular, the new Williamsport Library anticipates an additional $14.9 million in future state funding. And other projects, including Elkton and West Frederick, also anticipate additional requests in future years. On page 8, as shown in Exhibit 2, requested funding has exceeded the statutory mandate in 3 of the past 4 fiscal years. Over fiscal 24 through fiscal 27, total requested funding is $43.8 million compared to $30 million required under the mandate, or 47% above the statutory level. If the anticipated $18.1 million in future requests move forward, they could consume approximately 80% of planned funding for fiscal 28 through fiscal 2030, significantly limiting the ability to fund new projects within the mandated allocation. Given these pressures, the Department of Legislative Services recommends reducing the fiscal 27 general obligation bond authorization for the Public Library Capital Grant Program by $5.3 million to align funding with the $7.5 million statutory requirement. Turning to project updates, Exhibit 3 on pages 9 and 10 provides the status of fiscal 25 projects as of February 2026. Of the 7 projects funded in fiscal 25, 4 are under construction, 2 are in design, and 1 has been rescinded. Approximately 60% of the $15 million authorized for these projects remain unexpended. The Salisbury HVAC replacement project was rescinded following approval of funding for a new Salisbury library, and the associated funds were reallocated within the program. In fiscal 26, the new Clarksburg Library in Montgomery County has expended 100% of its funds, while the Salisbury renovation in Wycomico County has expended 13% to date. And with that, I conclude my presentation and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that analysis. I don't see any questions. Let's call up the agency. Miller, come on up.
Well, thank you, Chair Zucker, members of the committee, and certainly always thank you to Natalie for her thoughtful analysis of both our capital and operating budgets. I also wanted to thank David Konigsberg for being here with us today. He is our outstanding analyst with the Department of Budget and Management. We welcome the opportunity, and I'll be as brief as I can, because once I get going about libraries, it's hard for me to stop, as you've known in our short time together. But I will do my best to keep it brief and respond to that question. We want to thank you for establishing this program in 2008. At the time, it mandated $5 million overall for this wealth-based match, and in 2023, we're able to increase it to $7.5 million. Just a refresher, I was asked some questions about this yesterday in our House hearing. The program functions with the local library systems working with their local governments to develop projects, certify the local match, apply for the program that my agency administers. That goes then through a very rigorous competitive grant process, whereby then we work with the State Library Board to make the recommendations to DBM. We're now entering the 19th year of the program that this will be available to libraries. Our priorities include geographic diversity and grant distribution and stimulating the local support for library facilities development. All 24 library systems have received state capital grant funding at this point, which we're very happy to brag about, to improve one or more of their facilities. Since the inception of this program, more than $109 million has been authorized, and it's leveraged approximately $382 million in local matching funds, which is nearly 4 times the amount of the state's investment. We always give you a good return. While the majority of the grant awards have funded basic but critical renovations, including new roofs, windows, HVAC replacements, 21 new public libraries have been opened with the state's support. And in 2026, we are going to open 2 more, one in Garrett County and one in Worcester County, to bring the total number of new libraries created through this program up to 23. Our capital budget included another 3 new library facilities in Baltimore City, Park Heights, which I was excited to attend the groundbreaking of this year, Frederick, and Montgomery with the Clarksburg branch, counties and communities that currently do not have a public library facility. Funding is requested in FY 2027 for 2 more new libraries, one in Charles County and one in Washington County with the Williamsport Library. We continue to see new construction in Frederick and Montgomery counties as well. Additional renovation and expansion projects are included in Cecil, Dorchester, Queen Anne's, and Wicomico counties. So we are truly having a statewide impact with these dollars. I was asked to respond to the question that, given the current fiscal climate, how we should comment on plans to manage our funding within the mandate and prioritize new requests. And to the suggestion by DLS that they recommend the GO bond authorization of the Public Library Capital Grant Program be reduced to the $7.5 million that is mandated at the program funding level. We respectfully disagree with this recommendation to reduce the funding to $7.5 million, and we urge the committee to maintain the $12.775 million that's been proposed by the governor for the County Library Capital Grant Program. As the General Assembly recognized when they increased the funding mandate to $7.5 million in FY 2023, this program was simply not sustainable while funding remained flat at $5 million annually for 15 years. And over the course of 15 years, construction costs are going to escalate significantly. Since FY 23, that's only continued to happen, and it's been noted in nearly every project description provided by the analyst. As she states in the analysis, the County Public Library Capital Grant Program is unable to maintain funding commitments to projects already selected for state participation without exceeding the program's $7.5 million annual mandated funding level, and that the governor's request has exceeded the mandate in 3 of the past 4 fiscal years. that 5 of the 6 projects were selected for funding in fiscal 2027, and that they exceed $10 million total in estimated project costs, with 3 exceeding $20 million, which makes it difficult for the state to provide a meaningful contribution. And this is absolutely correct. It is very challenging, given the demanding needs, and she has outlined all of the reasons why we are seeking supplemental funding in this year's budget. We are extremely grateful to the General Assembly's decision to increase the funding mandate for the program, and we understand the fiscal challenges that the state is facing not only this year and in the years ahead. However, future funding requests for urgent and necessary projects are going to continue to exceed the mandated amount because the statewide need for library facilities development is tremendous, and construction costs will only continue to rise. We're currently accepting notices of intent from library systems for the FY 2028 grant cycle. In addition to continuing the projects that were mentioned by the analyst, we are aware of at least 3 new additional construction projects in Anne Arundel County, Carroll, and Frederick counties, along with numerous library renovation projects across Maryland that request state funding. This doesn't include any of the critical improvements to library facilities in Baltimore City at an estimated cost of over $51 million, or of the $337 million that's needed to address all of the necessary repairs at Enoch Pratt Free Library that were outlined in the 2024 Joint Chairman's Report. The only way that my agency can accommodate statewide requests for library facilities is through increased funding for the program. And that's something that certainly we appreciate this year with the governor's proposal, but that we are having conversations and working with DBM, the governor's office, and hopefully in the future, the General Assembly to improve. The alternative is for us to defer funding for the new projects while the cost of completing them continues to escalate. And we've already done that. We did that in the FY 2026 cycle when more than $5 million was deferred to keep our total request within the state mandate, which increased the cost to complete the projects in future budget cycles. Our most recent statewide facilities assessment conducted by our agency just this past November found that of the 193 public library buildings in Maryland are over 25 years old. Repairs for aging infrastructure are coming in at over $806 million, and we'll see replacement costs at an estimated cost of over $585 million. This looks at project needs in every single county over the course of a 5-year outlook. Libraries are some of the most heavily used spaces in the state and are absolute community anchors. Last year, they were visited more than 17 million times. The additional $5.2 million in supplemental funding goes a very long way towards those really big numbers that I just told you about, toward ensuring that library buildings are open and accessible for everyone. And we thank you, and we urge the committee to continue its investment in public libraries.
Well, thank you for your advocacy and your passion. I know you guys are all doing a great job. Any questions for the agency? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Andrew Gray, let's do Maryland Department of Environment, and then we'll go Commerce, and then Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll now present the Maryland Department of the Environment's fiscal 2027 capital budget analysis. Page 1, you see there that the overall funding is $481.4 million. Moving to the recommended actions on page 3, that they are to concur with the governor's allowance for the PAYGO side of things and to approve all authorizations for the GO bond side of things. Exhibit 1 on page 4 reflects the kind of big picture for funding for the Maryland Department of the Environment's program. $481.4 million in fiscal 2027 does reflect the last year of federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding, so you'll see a decrease in the federal funds moving forward. And you also see a large increase in the GO bonds funding for fiscal 2027 due to the fact that there's bond funding replacing money for the Bay Restoration Fund. So $70 million in the Bay Restoration Fund funding is being sent to the general fund to help with the state's fiscal situation. And then $70 million will be replaced over 2 years, $50 million in bonds in fiscal 2027 and $20 million in fiscal 2028. On page 6, Exhibit 2 reflects the changes in the budget. Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund, Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund do have some federal fund changes due to the availability of additional federal funding. And you see that swap with the Bay Restoration Fund wastewater in terms of special funds and general obligation bonds. The last thing I'd note here is for the Comprehensive Flood Management Program, there's a switch from $9.5 million in special funds, or excuse me, GEO bond funding, excuse me, to $9.5 million in Strategic Energy Investment Fund funding as part of the governor's overall balancing the budget plan. For the Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund, starts on page 7. I'll direct your attention to page 9, where I talk about some of the changes in the funding. So basically, no congressional earmarks means more money for the state. And Exhibit 3 shows the funding that's available, $98 million in federal funds in total, which $59.6 million are attributable to the IIJA. MDE did not receive any applications for the emerging contaminants funding in fiscal 2027. We're going to have a comment on that on the next page, page 10. But first, talking about encumbrances, the encumbrance level has been rather low relative to the amount of money coming in. MDE should comment on how it can accelerate that activity. In terms of the contaminants, we talked about that just briefly. MDE should comment why no funding requests are made for the fiscal 2027 in terms of water quality projects for emerging contaminants. Then moving on to the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, it starts on page 10. I'll show you the funding changes on page 11. So funding there, $43.5 million increase in funding for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act lead service line funding, as well as $10.6 million that's being transferred. Since the Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund didn't have any projects for emerging contaminants, the drinking water side's going to use that money instead. In terms of the encumbrance level, same concerns, the Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund, a lot of money coming in terms of the available, but not as much encumbering of the funding as we'd like to see. And you should comment on why the encumbrance levels aren't at the levels that we'd hope they would be. And then in terms of page 15, there's a comment about the lead service lines. So the idea is that with the lead service lines, you go out in inventory, find out where they are, and then replace them. Mostly we've seen to date the use of funding for inventorying, but not so much the replacing. And that's a concern because the federal funding is running out for that particular purpose. So MDE should comment on when it will have a complete lead service line inventory for the state that informs how the $43.5 million in the fiscal 2027 budget will be most effectively distributed to reduce exposure to lead service lines. Bay Restoration Fund starts on page 15. In terms of the funding changes, on page 16, we do note that there's the transfer of the $70 million from balance to, or the revenue, excuse me, to the general fund. And that means that it would be replaced over 2 years, that $50 million in fiscal 2027 and $20 million in fiscal 2028 in GEO bonds. On the bottom of page 17, Bay Restoration Fund revenues have stabilized, but they're still a little low, and there's some incompleteness in terms of the accounting for that revenues in terms of the reporting on that. So MD should comment on the status of efforts to improve the timeliness and detail of the controller's Bay Restoration Fund revenue reporting. And then finally, we'll talk about the Comprehensive Flood Program. It starts on page 22. I will direct your attention to page 23 in terms of the funding change. So the governor's fiscal 2027 budget plan has $13.9 million, includes $4.4 million in bonds, and then $9.5 million in Strategic Energy Investment Fund funding pending the use of that funding from the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. So that's just a part of the overall balancing of the budget considerations. And then on page 24, there's the recommendation to comment on the status of the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program funding. That's the federal funding that was supposed to go to the city of Crisfield, the Middle Branch Resiliency Initiative, and other projects in Maryland, but is now in jeopardy as a result of a ruling by the President Donald J. Trump administration's announcing of the canceling of that funding. However, there's then also a kind of a lawsuit, a court case about that as well. So MD should comment on the status of that overall funding. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much for that great analysis. Any questions? All right. Madam Secretary, come on up. I saw Adam Ortiz back there. He's known me for too long. I got worried that he'd tell the story about our youth, so.
He might.
It's all good. It's all good. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, Chair and Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. It's good to see you all. For the record, I am Serena McElwain, Secretary of Maryland's Department of the Environment. With me, I have Adriana Caldarelli, who's over here on the far left. She is the Director of the Water Infrastructure Financing Administration at MDE, and Chia Cook, who's the Director of Business Administration. Here in case we have any technical questions. They're here to help me answer those. I'm here to present the governor's fiscal year 2027 capital budget request of $481.4 million, which is an increase of $69 million over fiscal year 2026. This request reflects a peak year of the Federal Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, that's the IIJA funding, and it supports drinking water infrastructure, wastewater treatment upgrades, Chesapeake Bay restoration, hazardous substance remediation, and flood resilience. Our focus in fiscal year 27 is straightforward. We will deploy federal dollars responsibly. We will maintain core wastewater investment levels and execute efficiently. Emerging contaminants. So we at MDE, we did not, which you heard from Mr. Gray, we did not receive any construction-ready applications under the Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund for the $10.6 million of IIJA emerging contaminants category in fiscal year 27. And rather than just allow those funds to remain idle, we shift those funds to the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, where there were eligible treatment projects for emerging contaminants that were ready to proceed. So we felt that to be the most responsible thing to do. This ensures that the federal dollars are deployed on schedule and aligned with public health priorities. For lead service lines, the fiscal 27 budget includes $43.5 million in federal funding for lead service line work, with $41.3 million of that money is programmed for the projects and $2.3 million for administration and technical assistance that's necessary to move replacement projects efficiently and in compliance with the federal requirements. Our goal is to convert federal funding into measurable lead exposure reduction. This will help systems across the state meet the updated federal requirements to inventory all of the service lines by late 2027 and replace them all by 2037. For a Bay Restoration Fund, while the BRFA, the BRFA, shifts the funding source to GO bonds in fiscal year 27, I just wanted to say that the wastewater project authorization level, it does remain the same at $50 million, so that program level is maintained. As we look ahead, however, the Bay Restoration Fund, it is scheduled to sunset in 2030. If that occurs as currently scheduled, available revenue will be reduced significantly. And that reduction would really limit our ability to sustain the progress that we've made thus far and address the life cycle needs of the aging wastewater treatment plants that will need to be upgraded. So in order to sustain the continued success that we've had with this funding, I do strongly believe that thoughtful conversations with the General Assembly will need to happen well before 2030. We also continue to evaluate the long-term, during the same period, the long-term infrastructure life cycle needs and affordability considerations as we continue to look forward or toward the 2030 statutory change that I just talked about. For execution, we recognize that elevated federal appropriations does require disciplined delivery. So in fiscal year 27, we are strengthening project readiness review. We're expanding technical assistance to local governments, and we are actively managing our project pipeline to ensure appropriations convert quickly into construction, measurable outcomes, and where applicable, loan repayments to sustain our programs. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for the Secretary? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, we'll now turn our attention to the Department of Commerce. Elizabeth Weibel, please come on up. Thank you. I'm sorry, hold on, I apologize. Matt Stegman. We have public testimony, I apologize. Madam Secretary, if you could just stick around until public testimony. Kristen, are you on there too? Come on up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee of the committee. Matt Stegman with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, asking you to please move favorable on the budget for the capital budget for the Department of the Environment as submitted by the governor. Dollar for dollar, the investments in wastewater and stormwater in the MDE capital budget are some of the most impactful for bay restoration. And while we would, ask you to please not, make a general habit of it, the fund swap for the BRF funding is, certainly understandable in light of the general, fiscal picture. Allows those really important wastewater treatment plant upgrades to proceed while making sure that we don't have more adverse impacts on the operating side. So with that, we would ask you to report favorably on the department's budget.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kristen Harbison with Maryland League of Conservation Voters, and I'll never turn down an opportunity to speak with my friends of the Budget and Taxation Committee. Maryland LCV urges the committee to accept Governor Moore's proposed capital budget for the Department of the Environment without making any reductions. We urge you to pass a budget that recognizes the essential value of our state's natural resources, responsibly protects and enhances Maryland natural places, invests in climate resilience and clean energy, and ensures appropriate staffing for the state agencies. Maryland Department of the Environment manages several critical programs that protect the health of the Chesapeake Bay and Maryland's waterways, which in turn protect the health and Maryland's families, community, and economy. These programs must receive at least level funding in order to meet their mission. We ask you to provide at least level funding for Maryland's Department of the Environment and the program it manages, and a favorable report. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the panel? Okay, great. Okay, Ms. Weibel, Department of Commerce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Department of Commerce runs the Maryland Arts Capital Grant Program, which receives $3 million of mandated funding annually for fiscal 2024 through 2029. This year's CIP includes funding through the end of the mandate, but then removes it for the out years due to budget constraints. Thus, in the first 2 years of operations, the program awarded grants to 27 organizations for capital improvements. And DLS recommends approving the GO bond authorization for the program. That concludes my presentation.
You want to take another 20 minutes? You could, no, I'm just teasing.
I can read it for you
No,
slowly.
we're good. Thank you. No, thank you. It was really well written, very concise, so thank you. Ms. Secretary, come on up. Good to see you, sir.
Always a pleasure, sir. Appreciate it.
It's amazing. We got this 50-page, document in 2 pages. Unbelievable.
That's right.
Please.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. For the record, my name is Harry Coker, and I am the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Commerce, and I am here to testify in support of Commerce's fiscal 2027 budget allowance. Joining me at the table is Mr. Stephen Scarrett Davis, Executive Director of the Maryland State Arts Council, who can help provide any detailed insight that you all might seek. And I do want to start by thanking Elizabeth Weibel and the team at DLS for their thorough and thoughtful review of this budget allowance and every other program they review on behalf of Commerce and the General Assembly. The DLS analysis did not ask for any specific updates, and their recommendation was to approve the governor's allowance as submitted, which we of course concur with. But I would like to take this opportunity to provide you all with a brief update on the important programs that these dollars fund. The Maryland Arts Capital Grants Program was established by the Maryland General Assembly in 2021, and the statute requires $3 million to be included in either the capital or operating budget each year from fiscal 2024 through fiscal 2029. And the proposal before us today represents the fourth year of that funding, and it will allow the Maryland State Arts Council to continue to offer grants through the program. These funds are available to nonprofit organizations with operating budgets of less than $3 million that either participate in MSAC's grant for organizations or community arts development programs, or are open to the public and provide cultural education or experiences. The grants can be used to support the acquisition, expansion, renovation, or major repair facilities or infrastructure. In its first three fiscal years, the program received more than 140 eligible applications, and MSAC recommended 34 of those to be awarded grants. During that time, the Arts Council worked to ensure geographic diversity amongst the grantees through increased outreach, solicitation of feedback from partners, and organization adjustments. If this year's budget is approved as proposed, MSAC anticipates launching the fiscal 2027 applications in late spring or early summer. As we know, art and arts programs are important economic drivers for the state. They create jobs, they attract visitors and visitor spending, they build community, they foster understanding, and they help us interpret our shared history. The funding for the Arts Capital Program ensures that Maryland has state-of-the-art, accessible arts venues that can support economic development and ensure that the state is culturally rich, inspiring, and a fun place to be. This does help us to sell our state and attract business investment because quality of life is very important to our location prospects. We do ask for your continued support for the arts in Maryland, continued support for the inspired, passionate, and dedicated arts community, and continued support for our efforts to make our economy stronger and more competitive. We respectfully request that you approve this capital budget allowance as proposed. And again, thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and we'd be delighted to answer any questions that you all may have.
Great. Were you planning to say anything, sir? Are you good?
I'm good.
Good, perfect. Any questions for this panel? Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And I need to connect with you on something offline, but
Yes.
nothing
I'll follow
bad.
up, sir.
Yeah. We have a couple public witnesses. We've got Nicholas Cohen and Kathy Beecher. Please come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, honorable members of the committee. My name is Nicholas Cohen. I serve as Executive Director of Maryland Citizens for the Arts, the nonprofit organization that advocates for public investment in the arts statewide. Through our advocacy, we represent more than 300 arts organizations, 24 arts councils, 29 arts and entertainment districts, and thousands of independent artists across Maryland. I'm here today to express strong support for continued investment in the Arts Capital Grant Program. Over the past 3 years, this program has been transformative for many of Maryland's small arts organizations and creative businesses. 34 arts organizations representing counties such as Washington, Frederick, Montgomery, Howard, Baltimore City and County, and Prince George's have benefited from this program, which is expertly administered by the Maryland State Arts Council's dedicated staff. In previous years, lawmakers have expressed interest in how these funds are distributed statewide to ensure equitable access across the state's arts sector. I want to applaud the State Arts Council for its work in distributing these capital dollars statewide. In just 3 short years, capital grants have been awarded in 15 counties, demonstrating meaningful investment in communities across Maryland. The need for this program remains strong. Only about 23% of applicants received awards across these 3 years, underscoring significant demand for this resource. That said, I respectfully ask the committee to provide a favorable report for the governor's proposed appropriation for the Arts Capital Grant Program through the Maryland State Arts Council. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kathy Beechler, and I am here on behalf of the Garrett County Arts Council, which has supported the visual arts, music, theater, dance, literary, and culinary arts in Garrett County since 1976. For 50 years, the Arts Council has helped shape the cultural identity of Western Maryland's Appalachian region. From traditional artists and crafts to contemporary creative expression, our arts and cultural heritage sustains our rural economy, strengthens community pride, and contributes to the overall well-being and resilience of our citizens. Our administrative officers and the majority of our programming are housed at 108 South 2nd Street, a historic building in the heart of the Oakland Arts and Entertainment District. This property has served rural entrepreneurs since the late 1800s and today stands as an inclusive, ADA-accessible community hub where people of all abilities, backgrounds, and economic circumstances come together through the arts. Under this roof, we operate the Gallery Shop, a rural arts entrepreneurship work program that provides local artists a venue to sell their work. We host exhibition, workshops, markets, music lessons, writers groups, poetry readings, theater practice, and studio space. Our Smart Art workshops provide free shared equipment and technology for community members. We have partnered with the Smithsonian for virtual summer camp programming and host robotics First Lego League team practices. These programs serve youth, seniors, artists, entrepreneurs, and the growing tourism market that visits Garrett County. In June 2024, our roof began leaking in multiple places. While temporary patches were made, the building requires full replacement to ensure safety and preserve this vital community space. Our awarded Arts and Cultural Capital Grant allows us to stabilize the building immediately, protecting decades of arts and cultural heritage programming, and I'm pleased to report allowed us to secure additional funding to finalize the acquisition of our property last month. In a rural county where 15% of residents live below the poverty line, where vulnerable populations experience isolation, and where community safety and belonging matter deeply, this building is more than bricks and mortar. It is safe, it is visible, and it's welcoming for all. I know my community's story is just one example of how our governor and legislators have worked together to preserve historic spaces, expand equitable access, and strengthen local economies. On behalf of my community, I ask this committee to fully fund the governor's proposed appropriation of $3 million to support the Arts and Cultural Capital Grant Program with the Maryland State Arts Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for this panel? Okay, thank you. Oh, Senator Heddleman, please.
Just wanted to comment, I have been to your space a number of times, and it's very cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Weibel. Department of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The capital allowance for the Maryland Department of Planning includes 2 grant programs and 1 loan program. The African American Heritage Preservation Grant Programs receives a mandated $5 million in GO bonds. The Maryland Historical Trust Capital Grant Program receives $1 million in GO bonds, which is level funded from last year. And the MHT loan program receives $300,000 in special funds, which is higher than last year, but more in line with what the typical requested amount for a loan is. The plan of this year's CIP is to provide $300,000 for the loan program in 2027 and 2028, and then give it a break for a couple of years to allow the loan repayments to kind of recapitalize that fund. There's also funding extensions for some 2019 funding just to allow grantees additional time to expend their funds. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance and approving all the bond authorizations and amendments. That concludes my presentation.
Great, well, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Department of Planning, coming up. And the committee was informed that I know the secretary is across the street testifying on another hearing, so totally understand and appreciate you guys' patience. Please.
Good almost evening. Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, other distinguished members of the subcommittee. My name is Andrew Kelson. I am the relatively new Chief of Operations for the Maryland Department of Planning. And you already stated I was going to send apologies on behalf of Secretary Florer, who had to step away for another hearing. First and foremost, thank you, Elizabeth Weibel, for you're always a great partner, even though it's been a short time that I've worked with you. And simply to state, out of respect for everyone's time, MDP concurs with DLS's recommendation on the $6.3 million funding for FY27. With me, I have Ann Raines, Deputy Director for the Maryland Historical Trust, and Rod Cofield, who is the Executive Director for the Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum. And we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is that park the Louis Goldstein Museum?
It is.
All right.
If you want to come down?
I've been there. You still have the otter or whatever is up there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we do.
All right. See, who says I'm just a Montgomery County guy? I'm majority leader. I'm telling you. Well, any questions for this panel? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much. We've got some public witnesses. Let me call up Ann Rains and Rod Cofield. Oh, that's you guys. I'm sorry. That is you guys. We're good. Thank you. I just read what they give me. I'm glad it was appropriate. Let's go to Maryland Environmental Service, Sam Quist.
Good afternoon. The capital allowance for fiscal 27 for the Maryland Environmental Service is $11.1 million. You can see on the chart on page 1 that it is entirely funded through general obligation bond funds, in contrast to prior years when the MES capital allowances included a combination of both GO bond funds and non-budgeted funds, which represent transfer tax revenues, which were used for projects at DNR facilities. Due to the transfer of those funds to the general fund to provide operating budget relief this year, the capital program is funded entirely through GO bond funds. The capital program for MES also includes a couple of pre-authorizations for fiscal 28 for 4 projects, which total $11.7 million. A list and a summary of the fiscal 27 projects are shown on page 3 through 5 of the analysis in Exhibit 1. These total 7 projects in 5 jurisdictions and include 4 projects at DNR facilities and 3 projects at other state facilities. Of the 7 total projects, 4 are new or one-time funding, while 3 of the projects are ongoing funding. There are a couple items in the analysis where MES was asked to comment. The first item on page 6, the top of page 6, there's some additional discussion of the Springfield Hospital Center Water Distribution System project. MES is asked to comment on the adequacy of this project and if there are additional water quality issues at Springfield Hospital, if there's the possibility that additional remediation would be needed in the future, since the planned funding for fiscal 27 is somewhat limited in scope rather than a full water treatment overhaul there. Bottom of page 6 and the top of page 7, there are discussion of projects that were originally planned for fiscal 27 but have been deferred. The first project, the Greenbrier State Park Water and Wastewater Systems Upgrade Project, has been deferred because the project has been split into 3 individual projects. Funding is now programmed in the CIP for fiscal 29 through 31 and is programmed through entirely GO bond funding. MES is asked to comment on why that project, those 3 projects are planned to be funded through GO bond funds instead of the transfer tax revenue from DNR, and as well as if there's a possibility that bay restoration funding could be used for this project. The Charlotte Hall Veterans Home Water Treatment Plan project, which received funding last year, was also had funding plan for this year. There was federal funding in the CIP for fiscal 27, which represented grant funding through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. However, that funding has been deferred in the CIP due to delays in that federal grant application. And DBM indicates that the project is going to proceed in fiscal 27 using previously authorized funds. MES is asked to comment on the status of that federal grant agreement, as well as the status of the placement of that project on the VA's priority list. Finally, the DLS recommendation is to approve the authorizations and pre-authorizations. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Quist? Thank you very much. Dr. Glass, come on up. Good to see you, sir.
Likewise, Chair Zucker. Good afternoon, Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the subcommittee. For the record, my name is Dr. Charles Glass. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Environmental Service. I got one staff member with me here today to help any detailed questions about the capital program, but I should be able to handle most things myself. This is probably a third thing, but first, on behalf of MES, I would like to thank Mr. Samuel Quist and the entire DLS team for their thorough analysis on both our operating and capital budgets, but today we're talking about the capital budget. We appreciate DLS's endorsement for these important projects and their recommendation to approve all GO bond authorizations and pre-authorizations for MES. These projects are critical to these facilities and to MES's mission to deliver sustainable solutions to complex environmental challenges in order to protect and enhance Maryland's natural resources for all Marylanders. For the record, we concur with this recommendation, and we greatly appreciate your continued support for these capital projects. There were a few questions raised. I'd like to answer them briefly. Springfield Hospital, the aging facility, will receive important water distribution system upgrades to combat Legionella. We hope this effectively resolves the issues and that there will be no need for future upgrades. Greenbrier State Park, we requested the use of GO bonds, which was consistent with the FY 26 to 30 CIP, and also due to a reduction in the National Reconstruction and Development funds from DNR. I will note that we did submit an application for bay restoration funds last month for the collection system improvements, and we plan to submit for future BRF funds for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Charlotte Hall Veterans Home Water Treatment Plant upgrade, DLS asked us about the VA grant application. As of today, this is not listed as a priority on the VA state home construction grant priority list. We are waiting for feedback, and we will be happy to update the subcommittee on any developments moving forward. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for us. Me. I never pushed. Oh, I didn't answer.
You're good.
Okay.
Any questions for Dr. Glass? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Barber, come on up. Historic St. Mary's Commission.
Save the best for last.
We'll make sure we take you close to the top next year, if I'm back.
For the record, my name is Catherine Barber, and I'll be presenting the capital budget analysis for Historic St. Mary's City Commission. Starting on page 1, the 2026 CIP contains $1.3 million in general obligation bonds for the museum's visitor center conversion and site improvement projects. Moving to pages 3 and 4, you'll see details about the visitor center conversion project, which involves renovating the existing visitor center in an adjacent facility to create a flexible use space for visitor programs. This project is expected to total $13.7 million, including $420,000 in fiscal 27 for planning. There have been some changes to this project, including a $1.2 million decrease in total cost, and construction has been pushed back to fiscal 29 due to limited budget capacity. Pages 4 through 7 discuss the site improvements program, which funds 3 projects in fiscal 27 with $925,000. The first project will regrade and repave the parking lot at the Godiah Spray Plantation exhibit, which is a reconstruction of a typical 17th century tobacco farm. The entire project will require $250,000 and will take less than a year to complete. The second project focuses on restoring 3.5 miles of hiking trails and 5 footbridges. This will cost roughly $2 million over 2.5 years. The fiscal 27 capital budget provides $375,000 to begin the design phase. Historic St. Mary's City reported fiscal 25 authorizations for both of these projects, which are not reflected in the CIP, so we are asking the agency to clarify the actual allocations. The third project will install lighting throughout the museum's outdoor exhibits with $300,000. Additionally, in December 2025, DBM authorized the reallocation of funds from fiscal 25 site improvement authorizations to fund two projects, $400,000 for a new pavilion and $750,000 for renovations to the Branham House. At the same time, DBM rescinded the approval of $600,000 for the restoration of a residential property known as the Westerly Complex. After accounting for the rescission and the reallocations, the allocation of fiscal 24 and 25 authorizations by project is unclear. So the bold language asks Historic St. Mary City to provide an updated accounting of these authorizations by project. DLS recommends adopting committee narrative requesting a similar JCR report to last year on site improvements, program expenditures, encumbrances, and balances. Finally, the museum has two out-year projects I'll quickly mention. The first project will use $12.7 million to reconstruct the Leonard Calvert House, home to the colony's first governor. And the second project will construct a new facility to address storage and space issues. The bold language there asks Historic St. Mary City to discuss its plan to address storage issues before this facility is complete. Beyond the recommendation of committee narrative, DLS recommends approving the proposed capital budget. That's it from me, unless you have any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we saved the best for last because that was great. Thank you. Sure, Senator King.
Know that we all listened to you. He gave us instructions before he left.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, let's call the St. Mary's Commission up. Thank you again for that analysis. We appreciate it. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Please start in any order you wish.
Well, we will attempt to make this brief. I know we're behind schedule, so I will not read this entire thing to you. It has been submitted for your review. I would like to apologize yesterday to Ms. Barber. We had some technical glitches with the House, but I would like the committee to recognize that we spent a lot of time in the 17th century. So virtual hearings are not our strong suit, and in fact our testimony was printed on a printing press. So thank you very much for that. Again, I want to just say we concur with the analysis. This is an important year for Historic St. Mary City. The state has provided us support throughout the last several years to build our new visitor center, which we are excited to open in late July of this year. That will replace our current visitor center, which is slated in this proposal. The new visitor center will allow us to have more room for interpretive activities, artisan centers. We're still in the design phases, and we really want to move that forward. We are the new. I'm not going to give away. Everyone here wants me to not give away the secrets of our new visitor center, but we are the exhibit. The exhibits in the center are going to be just absolutely amazing. Not that our previous visitor center wasn't, but this is really going to be first class and really tell the stories of the beginnings of Maryland. And we are working very closely with the Piscataway tribe to do these exhibits. As mentioned in Ms. Barber's remarks, we do have some out-year projects related to maintenance, our maintenance inadequacies, and our storage of our collection of items. So those items might become a little more pressing because Travis will tell you that we will reach capacity in 2028 as of right now. So that's something we will revisit into the future. The analysis also notes that we've been in the past a little behind on encumbering funds. That being said, we've made pretty strong efforts this year to move that forward and get caught up on that. Pete Grocchio and Joe Kangas down here have been working tirelessly to update that. But we have our newly renovated kitchen and restaurant space will open in March. I just found out while we were sitting here it will open ahead of our opening March 17th. So we will have Angelica's Kitchen, and I'm going to get that wrong because I'm still on week number 3 here as the executive director. But we will, one of the challenges that we've heard from guests is, a lack of places to eat on site, and that will be opening. Additionally, We've updated some bathrooms at Farthing's Ordinary, and continue to work on on some other projects, including the ADA accessibility at Chancellor's Point, which again I took a drive down there the other day, and absolutely going to be one of the newest, coolest parts of visits to historic St. Mary City. We do want to note that we are coming up on Maryland's 400th anniversary. So continued support.
I thought that was just a rumor. Is that true?
It's true.
All right.
There's something to that.
right.
We are very excited about the 400th anniversary and what that could mean for St. Mary's City. But we are, we want to concur with the opinion of the legislature, and happy to take any questions. I'm going to take one moment of personal privilege. Last week I had the privilege of serving on a jury. And I was out of the office all week, and this team right here did an amazing job pulling all of this together. So I just want to take a moment to thank them for their hard work and getting this all done. So in my second week on the job, I was pulled out for a week. So we're catching up, but we're going to get there. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I'm glad it all worked out. Any questions for this panel? Great. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. And colleagues, that concludes today's capital budget hearings. We're adjourned.
Thank you.